Communicating with customers. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to identify the different methods of interacting with customers and assess the advantages and drawbacks of each method. Let's start with a little task. Make a list of all the different methods that you can think of that a bank will use to communicate with its customers. Pause the video while you do this, and then, when you unpause the video, make sure that you then discuss it with a partner and share your ideas, and share them with your teacher. So pause the video again after that to make sure that you have a discussion regarding it. Okay, now we can move on. So, what are the different communication methods that we have? Well, typically a bank will communicate using in-branch, and that's what most people think about, where you walk into the branch, you do your business, your banking by purely walking to the physical branch in a town centre. We also have online banking, which is becoming more and more popular, and many people think about this. Of course, the news stories around there always talk about the fact that people get hacked, for example, or their bank accounts being cleaned out because they typed into a phishing website or a malicious website, so you have to be careful with that. We've also got telephone banking, something that used to be big maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Just shows you how things change really quickly. The branch was under pressure originally from telephone banking. Now you could argue that branches are under pressure from online banking. You've got your postal banking, again, something that used to be fairly big. It's certainly starting to decline more and more because of the result of online banking. And then lastly, you've got your mobile banking. This is an area of growth, and a lot of the banks are starting to develop apps, for example, to take advantage of this. And you've even got people like Google and Apple trying to move into this area, haven't you, and PayPal with their mobile banking apps. Let's try and look into more detail of each one of these methods, though. So let's start with the most obvious one, the branch. Now, a branch typically was a natural and the most traditional form of banking, and it's more personal. People quite like that idea. And customers tend to feel reassured because of the personal service that they get connecting with. As a result of that, customers are happier. So you tend to build that connection with them, and banks try and build relationships. On the other side of that argument, there is the argument that you're more likely to get divorced or to change your bank account. So customers actually tend to be exceptionally loyal to banks regardless of how they get treated. So actually, do they need to give that personal service? The other advantage of getting into the branch tends to be you get access to all the services that are offered by a specific bank. Of course, the drawbacks tend to be that you have to travel to the branch. Many branches have started to close down and have restricted opening hours. They open 10 till 3, for example. It's not the most flexible if you're at work 9 till 5. What you start to see now, of course, is the fact that they are closing branches in town centres and moving to cities, so you've got to travel to the city. People obviously find that time consuming, and when they go to a branch, it tends to be really busy, and that's one of the knock-on effects that you get straight away. Of course, branch banking has been under threat from something called online banking. Now, online banking naturally is a quick and easy method of banking. It appeals to customers, especially younger customers who are more technological savvy. It tends to offer instantaneous data that's near enough live. So if you pay into a branch, within 2 or 3 minutes, your online account will show that it's gone up, being debited that account by a certain amount of money. So credited that account by that certain amount of money. Of course, you also have access to a wide range of services and applications that you can fill in. So in theory, most of your online banking gives you access to near enough everything. Not everything fully, but near enough everything. Of course, the main drawback of online banking tends to be concerns over security of using mobile applications or the online applications. So, of course, the risk of doing exactly that, is it safe to use? You have to have access to the internet and a personal computer if you want to do online banking. If you try to do it on your phone, it'll tend to resort to the mobile app version, which is not so useful on a small computer. Even tablets have got their own version. So if you want to do online banking fully, typically a lot of the banks expect you to have a personal computer. And it's a lot less personal than obviously visiting a branch, and it does actually lack some of those features that we said about actually visiting a branch in the first place. You then have telephone banking. Now, like I say, this was a big trend only 5 or 10 years ago, and things have changed an awful lot now as the advent of the internet and pushing that out there. Now, telephone banking actually offers an ability for people who do not have access to the other methods to effectively manage their bank account. It does offer fairly instant access to balance transfer data. So it'll read back to you the account data. That's the data that'll get displayed on the online banking typically. So it's still fairly instantaneous. And it does enable you to carry out instant transactions. However, they are limited. So you've only got a limited range of features that you can actually do on the telephone, because clearly you've only got 9 buttons you can press, 1 to 9. It tends to be a lot slower than other forms of banking, because you have to log in, you have to obviously type your PIN number in, you have to do the security process. It can be fiddly and quite annoying as well. And it's not always as convenient, because some banks actually charge to use their internet banking. Effectively, they charge you for the number that you ring. So some customers don't like that, because they're actually paying to access their own internet banking. Now you've got mobile banking. Now, mobile banking is one of the big growth areas, like we said. A lot of banks are really pushing this area. Now, mobile banking is quick and easy method of banking. People like it. It's on your mobile. It's effectively like internet banking, only slimmed down and more friendly and user intuitive for a smaller area. It offers a live instantaneous data, which effectively is near enough bank on. Again, just like if you want to think about it, like online banking, it's the same data that's being slimmed down. And some apps that the banks have now developed, like the NatWest app, for example, allow you to even get cash or make payments purely from the app. You can actually go to a cash machine, type in a number, and it will give you out cash from your account without your bank card. So you can see that it's starting to slim it down, make it more efficient, offering up more services. Of course, as I mentioned before, mobile banking has a limited range of services that can be completed. They're starting to improve and they're getting better, but it's still a limited range. There are some concerns about how secure mobile phone applications are for banking. There have been many stories in the news about certain banks and obviously how their apps have been exploited. And you do tend to have to have the latest operating system or the latest updates, and you have to have internet data on your mobile phone enabled to actually make it work. So you could argue that that can be fiddly, especially if you've got an older mobile phone. Some banking apps will not run on older versions. So if you've got an older iPhone, for example, that can't be updated in the latest iOS, you may have problems accessing your online bank account via mobile banking. And then lastly, we have postal banking. Now, this is probably one of the areas of banking that's probably in more decline. It's been a smaller niche market than the branch. And of course, it tends to offer the ability for anybody who can't get to a bank, for example, and hasn't got internet access, or maybe a slow internet access. But again, because some parts of the country, believe it or not, do struggle with any form of internet connection, it does give them the ability to carry out banking in an alternative way. And it is a physical form of banking, which some people feel more comfortable doing because you've got some paper. For example, got some evidence, you're sending something off, you've got something trackable. Some people like that idea of having something tangible that they can touch. Of course, it's a lot slower than any other method of banking because you've got to send it off, you've got to wait for it to be processed. And then, of course, you've got limits on effectively what tasks you can do by postal banking. Security is a question about how do you verify what you're doing. That's why the tasks that you can do are so smaller. A lot of them require you to go in the branch anyway to authorise them, which then makes it slightly pointless effectively. And it's a service that many banks are now trying to cut back on. And that covers all the areas of banking. That's it. You should now be able to identify the different methods of interacting with customers. And you should be able to assess the advantages and drawbacks of each of the different methods that are being shown. Thanks for checking out the Be Business Bee YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. It's @BeBusinessBee. Also, give the Facebook page a like. It's facebook.com/BeBusinessBee. And lastly, don't forget to check out the online hive of activities found on bebusinessbee.co.uk, full of quizzes, activities and resources. And remember, until next time, keep buzzing.